Welcome back to the Tracy Take. I'm Tyler here with my brother Ryan, and today we are breaking down Ryan's New England Patriots 2024 schedule. We're going to give their absolute worst case scenario when it comes to their record, and then their highest ceiling possible, probably best case scenario. And so Ryan's going to be hoping for that one. But before we get into that, if you have not already, go ahead, like this video, subscribe, and tackle that bell to get notified when new videos come out. We have content that comes out every Monday through Friday at 5 p.m. Eastern time. And then once when the season starts, we're going to be having weekly prediction videos for all the Patriots games that you're not going to want to miss. And you're going to be able to see Ryan get super animated. It's going to be a lot of fun. So anyways, like, subscribe, ring that bell. And Ryan, I think before we get into the schedule, let's quickly recap the Patriots offseason and kind of some of the areas that they improved on. Number one, they just restarted at quarterback. I'd say improved at quarterback as well. Brought on some more weapons in general, just both receivers as well, and then also the two on the offensive line side as well. But I kind of want to throw it over to you because as the Patriots fan, you're the one we were just talking about before this. You follow almost everything with the Patriots. What do you think the Patriots improved on the most, and what do you think some areas that they're still going to be lacking potentially a little bit going into the season?
Is it possible to have improved in an area and yet still be lacking in that? Because for me, the biggest thing that I look at is this offensive line going to be not even like really good, just like adequate. They gave up 48 sacks last year, which was 24th. They were 26th in running. Ramondre Stevenson, in my opinion, is a top 10 back in the league. He's a very talented running back, but he just had no space. This running game was not able to do anything for him. And so for me, I think this offensive line should be much better. I still think they're probably lacking a little bit in that area as well. I like Caden Wallace. I like the pick. I have questions about him at left tackle. I would be much happier with him at right tackle, and then somebody that has been a consistent left tackle throughout their career at that position. However, there are reports in camp that he is playing well. So all in all, like, I think it's going to be really interesting to see the young talent improve. And I think the same thing goes for the skill position player in the wide receiver room specifically. They went out, they got two rookies at that position. KJ Osborne came in free agency. I think that room should be improved. By how much, I'm not quite sure yet, but I do think on the offensive side of the ball, they should be much better in like the supporting cast areas. And then obviously you mentioned going and bringing in two quarterbacks through the draft and then getting Jacoby Brissett. That whole room, Bailey Zappi will probably not be on the team. And so that whole room should be turned over. And so hopefully more consistent play will be coming out of that room. It really can't get much worse. And so I really like what they have done this offseason in terms of starting this rebuild process. Hopefully the seeds that they have planted can continue to grow over this year, and hopefully in a year or two, this team is competing for a playoff spot.
Yeah, it was weird watching your team last year because sometimes, you see teams who just are not as statistically advantageous offensively. Like, and some of that's by design, just based off overall capabilities. But you just watched that team last year and like, man, they were just awful all around.
Yeah.
Like every single. You guys did have some injuries in the skill position player area as well, but still, it was just from top to bottom. Just it can't really get much worse. I think, in my opinion. Especially too, I go look at a guy like Ramondre Stevenson, the running back, and I think he's one of the better running backs in the league. I mean, not the best, but I would say above average. And he's just been on some poor teams.
Oh, yeah.
I think for this Patriots, and so hopefully this offensive line is improved. I don't think it could get much worse than what it was like last year. Skill position player wise, especially can't get much worse than what it was last year. So curious to see that development. Still just a lot of question marks. I will say that being said, though, too, I think your guys' defense is still going to be top five. I think there's still good potential to be a good top five defense here, just with the talent, and then with Matt Judon and Christian Gonzalez coming back, if they could stay healthy, and then the other team in the field.
Defensively, I have some concerns. Christian Barmore was diagnosed this weekend with blood clots, and so he could be out. He's out indefinitely. We don't know. Then the contract situation with Matthew Judon is shaky. He had a little bit of an incident at OTAs on Monday, and was not seen at practice on Tuesday. And so we'll kind of see. This video is being recorded in advance, so There will be multiple other OTA practices to see if he can resolve the contract situation before then. He could potentially be traded. The one thing I will say is they were already 27th in sacks last year, so they weren't getting a ton of pressure. So, in my opinion, the Judon loss has kind of already taken its effect. Christian Barmore is the big loss, I think, for this team. That's a young leader who just got a contract extension. So hopefully, obviously, the priority is him getting healthy, and then hopefully he can make a return to football at some point this season.
Yeah, absolutely wish him the best. I actually did not know that going into this. So, but it's going to be interesting. There's just a lot of question marks. And then even, too, we haven't even talked about losing Bill Belichick, which maybe that was, some would say, a good thing. But still, I think a lot of question marks, just on the game plans, with Rod Mayo and his first time coaching. So, with the Patriots, I mean. So let's go through. We're going to go in three 6-game sections here, and we break them down. So week 1 is at Cincinnati. Week 2 hosting Seattle. Week 3 at the Jets for Thursday Night Football. Week 4 at San Francisco. Week 5 hosting Miami. Week 6 at Houston. Tough start, I think, to your Patriots season here. Cincinnati, hopefully maybe you play the Cincinnati of week 1 last year where they get absolutely demolished by the Browns. So that one is maybe iffy, but I'm not going to count on that. Seattle, I think, is a fringe playoff team, and so I think it's going to be a tough game. Same with the Jets. Who really knows with the Jets? And so I have to see. Hopefully Aaron Rodgers can make it that far, just so it'll be entertaining to see the Jets, but we'll have to kind of wait and see. San Francisco, Miami, and Houston. Yeah, I don't see. I think those are going to be losses. So I apologize, but I kind of hate to say it, but with if we're talking worst case scenario, I think 0-6 is extremely possible. I really think it's possible.
I think you look at it and all of these teams have just more talent than New England, especially with the recent defensive losses that New England has faced. So I really think 0-6 isn't that's obviously the worst case scenario. It doesn't get much worse than that, but I could very much see them starting out 0-6. So I think that is more realistic. I was gonna say I think the ceiling is 3-3. I don't really see them beating San Francisco, Miami, or Houston. You could talk me into a world where they go into Cincinnati in week 1 and win. I think Seattle definitely has faults. New England might be better in the trenches. Granted, I guess that is considering that everybody's healthy. But I could still see a world where Seattle, they could come out on top, and then the Jets. I think, especially on a short week, it's the Jets. They could find a way to blow it.
Yeah, I can go with that. I think that is a stretch still, but that being said, though, or even if they somehow win 2 of those games, somehow sneak out a win in the other 4, I think that's possible. But I think 3-3 is going to be the best they can go through in that early section there. It does get a little bit easier in these next 6-game section. Week 7 at Jacksonville in UK. I will say that's going to be a loss, and I'll explain here in a second. Week 8, the Jets. Week 9 at Tennessee. Week 10 at Chicago. Week 11 hosting the Rams, and then Week 12 at Miami. Reason why I started off Week 7 as a loss, Jacksonville will already be there for a week. Their Week 6 game is in London also.
Yeah.
That is going to be a ginormous advantage for the entire Jaguars team, and they're not going to be as jet-lagged, unlike your Patriots. And that's what we saw last year when the Bills flew over there. So it's a huge advantage for the Jags team. Ironically, they're technically the road team in that game, and I think they should really be the home team and get maximum home field advantage. But so I think that's going to be a loss. Same thing, kind of what you said with the Jets. Tennessee, I think, is also in kind of a similar boat as they're one step ahead, I feel, of where you guys are at New England. Same thing kind of with Chicago as well. Even though it's they do technically have a rookie quarterback, but that game will be interesting to watch. I think Rams game is going to be tough. And at Miami, when was the last time y'all won at Miami? That's another one, right?
Week 2 of 2018, it was we won 54-0. We just swept them off. I think that's the last time we've won there.
Because it's been a while since you guys won in Miami. So that one's going to be interesting. Once again, I will say I think worst case scenario. I think worst case scenario, you guys go 1-5 during the stretch.
I mean, realistically, I could see 0-6. I think all of these teams on paper are probably better than New England.
Yeah, probably. And the one you guys will win a game. I mean, I think Tennessee or the Jets or I guess one of those two games. I guess
Yeah.
it's still looking bleak. I will say. What do you think best case scenario could be?
3-3 again. I think I look at the Jets, Tennessee, and like Chicago. Maybe they eke out that one.
Yeah.
But even then, I still feel like I'm stretching.
Well, I mean, your defense is gonna. I think giving your defense a little more credit. I'd rather see what happens with Judon, but Judon missed most of the year anyways. But true point though about Christian Barmore, that's gonna be a big loss. But okay, I can go with that. So wait, so we're going with 0-6 again or 1-5? Let's go 1-5.
1-5. Okay.
Let's go 1-5. Let's be fair to your team. Actually, it's your team. If you want to go 0-6, I really don't care. So
I mean, realistically, they're not going to be favored in any game that they go into. Okay. But we'll say 1-5 just because it is so unlikely that they go 0-17.
Yeah. So week 13 hosting Indy, have a week 14 bye. In the final 4 games at Arizona, week 15, week 16 at Buffalo, week 17 hosting the Chargers, and week 18 hosting Buffalo. So then you got to play arguably the best team in the AFC East twice in the final 5 games here. Mm-hmm. It's I think worst case scenario. I will say kind of with this stretch here, I will say 1-4. I think best case scenario can be 3-2. Like maybe they win one of the Buffalo games and then they beat. And then some combination of Indy and then Chargers or Indy and Arizona or Arizona and the Chargers.
Yeah.
Especially to Arizona and the Chargers. Both those teams also have some question marks as well. Arguably could be better.
I actually think 4-1 is the ceiling. I think if they split with Buffalo, Indy, Arizona, and the Chargers are all beatable. I also look at historically; those have been some of the worst run defenses in the league. And New England's offense is going to run through the running game. Yeah. So that's me, like, and maybe that's me being a little hopeful. But a lot of those, like the Cardinals and the Chargers, are in a similar phase. I think the Cardinals might be one step ahead also. But I think Indy is a good team. I just think matchup wise could struggle. So we could go 3-2 or 4-1 be the ceiling. But
okay, I can see that. I think that's fair. So 1-4 ceiling, 4-1. Sorry, 1-4 floor, 4-1 ceiling.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So with that, so floor, this will be easy to
2-15.
2-15, which I don't know yet. Now, kind of reviewing it, and then now you're talking about then the loss of Christian Barmore, and then who knows what happened with Matt Judon. So that then 10-7 seemed like that was the ceiling.
Yeah,
which
feels a little high.
Which is interesting because our record prediction for our offseason recap was you were 5-12, I was 7-10. So that actually is we're kind of in the middle of that bell curve.
Yeah.
I was maybe a little bit more optimistic than yourself on your team. And I think that's probably where they'll end up. That being said, though, it more likely going to be leaning towards the floor of 2-15. I think it's going to be closer to your record at best. We just really need to see because there's so many question marks because this offense was so bad last year. Mm-hmm. And then they went and got a first round quarterback. But it's not like they have any stud receiver, like proven receivers, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because like Jalen Polk, I like him a lot. Still some question, how's he going to translate? Kendrick Bourne, I think, is a solid receiver, but he's not a clear number.
And he's coming off a torn ACL.
He's coming off a torn ACL. You got Pop Douglas as well. That's going to be coming. That's coming off a good rookie season. Can he continue to be that potential number one guy? And how does he work with Drake May? So there's some positives, but still a lot of question marks. It's just going to be how that offense, if they can be marginally average, and I think they'll get them closer to that 5-12, maybe 7-10 range.
Yeah, and so for me, I just want to set the precedent. I think for what New England is one of the worst teams on paper in the NFL, and they have the
You
Wait,
set
what?
the expectation.
Yeah, well, set like the beginning of my point. They
Oh,
have one of the worst teams on paper in the NFL, and they have the hardest schedule in terms of uh win loss record from opponents from last year.
yeah,
So I know that doesn't necessarily always translate from one year to the next, but for being as bad as they are, they're in a really good division. The AFC is very good. They don't really have a week like they don't have a week where they don't get to play the Giants this year. There aren't those games. And so for
well, that's.
me,
Oops, sorry, go ahead.
their easiest games are Arizona and the Chargers, who I still even think you look at them on paper, they might be better. The Chargers maybe not as much, but they're definitely better at the quarterback position.
Definitely better at the quarterback position. I think they have more optimism at the
Yeah.
receiving spot. I feel even too. I look at a team like Tennessee, maybe is the worst, but there's still a lot of optimism on that
Yeah.
team when especially you look at that receiving room and what they've done to that offense. Uh, they have a lot of question marks, but still,
Yeah.
it's like you make a fair point that it's looking at this right now. I probably bet against New England in almost every game
Yeah.
as of right now.
Yeah. And who knows? Maybe Drake May has a CJ Stroud like rookie season, and the two rookie receivers come in and have a great year. But just looking at it coming into it, to me this year is not about wins and losses. It's really about, are these young players developing, and that's why like to get into like my closing remarks of this video. I don't want a Juju Smith-Schuster on the roster. I really like thinking of the Matthew Judon stuff. I would give Matthew Judon the extension and then trade him to somebody who's willing to give up a third round pick for him, because I think you could probably do that for a guy that is averaging almost a sack a game over the last 3 years. So that to me, I think is the goal of this team, is develop young players. Yeah, this season might suck in terms of wins and losses, but you go out there, get better, like get NFL experience, and then you can move on from there. Where next year, if Jalen Polk and Javon Baker are proven top receivers, you get a left tackle, Caden Wallace flips back over. Now you're cooking with gas on offense. This defense, hopefully Christian Barmore can come back, get an edge rusher in the second round of the draft after you get the left tackle, and there you go. I mean, that to me is how this team really gets built up in one off season,
Yeah,
or in, I guess that'd be 2 off seasons,
yeah.
but
You haven't experienced a true rebuild yet, so in your lifetime, actually.
yeah.
So
Well, this is it. So
yeah, it sucks. So welcome to the real world. And so,
yeah.
but I agree with you though. It's going to be interesting just to see how this team develops. I mean, new head
Mhm.
coach, rookie quarterback, young skill position player room. And so, but still some good veterans on the other side of the ball. And how do you manage that relationship and just how do you keep progressing? That I think will be fascinating to see how the Patriots handle.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and wrap this video up here. If you guys have not already, please go ahead and like and subscribe. Leave a comment down below on what you thought of the New England Patriots offseason moves and what you think their floor and ceiling will be in 2024. And other than that, we will see you guys next time.